It has returned. The Man in the Cave by Internet Historian has been re-uploaded. It was lost to time. I don't know why it was taken down, but it's back. And I felt like I needed to react to it, and I needed to watch it. So, let's get into it. No dilly-dallying.
In the state of Kentucky, there is a cave that every now and then demands a sacrifice.
He's being hyperbolic, right?
January 30th, 1925. A man walks towards the cave with a kerosene lamp in his hand. He hangs up his jacket and ducks into a 5-foot opening. The inside of the cave is small. He has to go on hands and knees, crawling through passages of sharp stone and choking dust. Then down a chute he had cleared out months earlier. All of the daylight is gone from here, and this lantern is his only source of light. Ignoring the loose limestone rocks perched directly above him, he is now 100 feet in, and here he reaches the turnaround room.
I don't like that name.
Now, they call this the turnaround room because this is the juncture where even experienced cavers say, no thanks, and turn around.
Yep. I wouldn't even make it this far, but at that point I'd be like, yep, you know what? Time for me to book it. I got too much to live for. Okay, that's a lie, but I'd convince myself that it's true.
Because to continue on means going through this. The squeeze. A gap in the stone of only 9 inches. For reference, here's a subway sub.
They're not even 12
Going
inches.
Through, he would look exactly like this.
No,
His arms will need to be completely at their side, and he will need to exhale so that he can reduce the size of his torso.
What can drive someone to do this? You'll never get me spelunking. The only thing worse than this is going cave spelunky, but underwater. No.
Gradually, bit by bit, he disappears into the hole. His clothes are caught on sharp gypsum crystals, hooking into him and threatening to hold him in place.
What the fuck?
Using just his feet, he pushes himself forward.
Hey, I know that guy.
He reaches a wider opening at the other side.
The real guy.
Then crawls forward towards a ledge.
Wendigoon.
Lit by the lamp is a drop about twice his height. There's already a rope here. He gently climbs down. His worn-out leather shoes touch the ground. This is as far as he can go.
What if you get stuck like that?
Time for work to begin. What he is working on is another opening. At the moment, it's too small for anyone to fit through, but he will chip away at it until he can shove himself right through the other side. Because on the other side is this. An otherworldly cave structure, dripping with pristine white crystals.
Wait, are they valuable?
Every day for months, he has been removing rocks from this crevice. To him, this is all just routine. So he shimmies further into the gap, his body contorting to the shape of the crevice as he wriggles his way in. The walls becoming so tight that he can no longer use his arms.
Wow.
Then, about halfway, he stops. The lantern. It's starting to dim.
Get the fuck out!
He will need to go all the way back to the surface to refuel the thing. He sighs. He slowly shuffles back out, pushing the
It's just a mild inconvenience, like, oh, dang it. The lantern's about to go out. What can compel someone to do this? For real, I know they said that it was for the crystals, but it's not worth it. And this is routine for him now. I don't think that... Why does it convince him to do that for the very first time? What convinced him to try this at all for the very first time before he even knew that he wouldn't get stuck? Jesus.
Lantern with his
Wendigoon, please.
Then, oh no. Ding, crack, darkness.
Now he's in darkness.
He has knocked over the lamp, and it has broken. The man breathed deeply and relaxed. He had been in worse situations before.
Worse?
And he was confident he could navigate his way to the surface through feel alone.
Oh, he's like Daredevil.
He searches around with his feet to find something he can push against. Ah, there's something, he thinks. But what he doesn't know is that he's pressing against a loose rock on the ceiling. As soon as he puts his weight against it, it comes free. A solid piece weighing 15 kilograms lands directly on his ankle.
Oh, that ankle's gone.
But he's okay. It doesn't feel as though his ankle is broken, just badly bruised and caught underneath the rock.
Okay.
So he shuffles to move the rock away. Suddenly, gravel.
He's so
a
calm.
lot of gravel. It falls onto his feet, his legs, his torso, and the weight of it all forced the rock harder down onto his foot and locks it in place. Every time he tries to move, more rubble falls.
Oh, it's like a snake.
He is stuck.
Every time you breathe, it gets tighter.
This is Sand Cave. This man is Floyd Collins.
Sand cave, more like sand grave. Sorry.
He is trapped in absolute darkness, 60 feet deep below the earth. All of his limbs held in place at the very bottom of this.
Oh, no. Please tell him he told somebody he was doing this, right? Shoot. This is so much longer than I thought it was gonna be. Okay, that cave looks like a mouth, right? I'm not the only one that thinks that.
What happens next? Ad time. Speaking of people
I love his
trapped
ads.
in a cave, World of Tanks.
Yeah!
World of Tanks is not only the best game I have ever played, it is the only game I have ever
Dude, that could be you in a
played.
tank.
It's like cars, but tanks. Picture this. You're a hot new
Don't give Disney any
T44
ideas.
and you've just
They'll
joined
do
the
it.
battle because some Cromwell bee tank bagged your entire family. It's time for revenge. You must use strategy. You must use stealth. You must use your wits to defeat your enemies.
I don't think that's how tanks fight.
Range or short range. It's available on console, but I want you to get it on PC. Imagine a world war, but there are tanks involved this time.
Oh, okay, yeah, they weren't
Now
last
you
time.
get it. When you've seen as many messed up tanks as I have, you get a little cynical about the world.
Why is he so good at this?
I'm gonna be sick. Look at all the different tanks. You can collectomize and customize them all. Massive battles where you can
Child on board.
constantly team kill and ruin other people's good time.
What the f***? I'm on your f***! Yeah!
Did I mention it's historically accurate, especially the Japanese robot tanks? Look, the tanks are kissing. Progressive. Use the invite code TANKMANIA and get the Excelsior.
I mean, they are kind of historically accurate when they aren't. Military officials leak documents just to fix it.
Code TANKMANIA. Here's what you do. Get World of Tanks. Put that on one screen. Then, on a second monitor, you'll watch the next hour of this video while you play the game.
Alright, go do that.
I'm contractually obliged to say thank you for being a friend. Sarge, no.
I highly
Tanks
doubt he
empty,
was.
kid.
There's
Go
no
on
way.
without me.
No, use your repair consumable.
It's too late, kid. Take care of my family.
No. Even the kids ripped.
Get it. Add o. Collins is still in the dark, unable to move. He can feel the sharp crystals on the ground poking into his back. The ice melts above him, traces across the ceiling, and
Well, at least he's got water.
directly onto his face.
Oh, never mind.
He would shield himself against the dripping, except that his right arm is wedged against the roof of the cave, and his left is stuck in place underneath his torso. The cold water dripping onto him.
Isn't water dripping on your forehead like a ancient Chinese torture method or something like that? Like, where it just drives you mad after a while? Oh, fuck.
Pools underneath him. Floyd took slow, steady breaths in the concentrated dark. When he did attempt to shuffle, more gravel and rocks would tumble from above and pile onto his feet, so nothing would work. He raked his fingers against the wall until blood pooled underneath his nails, and he realized that there was only one option left.
Help.
Call out for help.
Who's gonna hear you?
Wait. Who is Floyd, and why did he even go into a dangerous cave?
Because he's an idiot.
Floyd started his caving career at the tender age of 6. Growing up, exploring the caves of Kentucky
probably easier at
was practically
6.
all he did. He would go off on his own, disappearing into the caves for many hours at a time. Have you seen that movie, The Descent? It was a lot like that.
I don't know about
He
that.
grew up and he became embroiled in the Kentucky Cave Wars. Now, there's way too much to go into here, but the summary version is there's this huge network of interconnected caves.
It's spaghetti.
Called Mammoth Caves. It's actually the largest cave system in the world.
Oh.
And there's a city right in the middle of it. Cave City. Real
Makes
name.
sense.
So, of course, there are dozens of cave entrances on private property all over the place. Now, farmland in this region has very poor soil, and things do not grow well here. So, cave tourism as a source of income quickly became the prominent thing.
Okay.
However, a problem. There are a very large number of caves, but there are only a limited number of tourists. So competition rapidly escalated. Visit my cave. No. Visit my cave. Big signs were erected saying, tourists, come to me. Mine is definitely open. Mine is the best. But then competitors would respond by saying, hey, by the way, we're open, but don't go to that one over there. It's really shitty. In fact, it's dangerous. This kept going further.
Wow.
They were blocking off the trail to each other's property, beating each other in the streets, and hiring people called cappers who would dress up as policemen and tell tourists, no, you can't go in there. That what? No, it's illegal. Despite the fierce competition, Floyd found a cave on his property and he started advertising it to tourists.
Come on, Wendigoon, you got
Of course,
this.
very few came.
Aww.
All right, he thought. What if I found something really special and unique? Then surely people would have to come to my cave to see it. So
Dude, it's just like a
he
content
explored
creator trying
and
to get people to
explored
watch.
Until he found this hollow. It was filled with big gypsum crystals, and when you were in there, it felt like a completely alien world. But it was barely accessible. This small tunnel is the only way in. He would need to dig for months to open it up to tourists, but he knew he could do it. Back to the competition.
Wait. Even if he makes that part of the tunnel bigger for people to go through, you expect them to go through the squeeze and the turnaround and all that stuff? I feel like this was failed to doom from the start, no matter what. I don't know if he thought this all the way through, because as a person who doesn't like caving, there's no way in hell you're getting me down there. No, sir.
The value of this cave. They knew the potential, they wanted it for themselves, and they wanted Collins gone. A few months
So they
apart,
hired
a
the
group of
cave to
5
kill
men
him.
showed up to his farm unannounced.
Hand over that lease, Floyd.
They said. Floyd, of course, refused. So they turned to violence, knocking him down and savaging the helpless man until Homer, Floyd's brother, came running out of the house with a shotgun.
Submito!
But Floyd was not deterred. He spent 12 hours a day, every day, for months, clearing gravel and stone.
Wait, how does he
chipping
make a
away at that
living?
Passage. He would open it up to tourists, make his cave an incredible attraction,
Sure.
and make his dreams come true.
Hey! Is anyone
So there's Floyd in the dark, yelling out for help, yelling into the pitch black. After a while, his voice would give out, and he would have to sleep to recuperate. He would then wake sometime later, remember where he is, and begin yelling again for help. Here he remained in the dark for the next 23 hours.
What?
Quickly you might wonder, how come no one's come for him after 23 hours?
Did did not tell anybody?
Sand Cave resides on a 200-acre farm. There are several homes on this property with other families. One of them, of course, is Colin's house, where Floyd's father, Lee, resides. Now, Lee and Floyd constantly get into fights about how to run things. Lee wants his son to concentrate on farming, and Floyd wants to concentrate on cave tourism.
If he focused on the farm, he wouldn't be stuck.
And Lee was also a bit of a drunk.
Ooh.
It was doubtful that he would even notice if his son, Floyd, was missing. Also not helping things, Floyd regularly lodged at 2 other homes on the farm. So when he didn't return to one host, they would presume that he was staying with the other.
Makes
And,
sense.
even worse still, he was known to occasionally sleep in the cave, doing stints of up to 30 hours in there without resurfacing. Regardless, around
Should have
the
taken a cell phone.
23-hour mark, a few locals started to suspect that, hey, something might be wrong, and they went to check up on him. And here, they spotted his jacket still hung up. Unusual. They went deeper. However, there was only one person small enough to make it as far as the turnaround room.
And then he turned around.
17-year-old Jewel Estes. He refused to go into the squeeze, but if he yelled, Floyd would probably hear him. Floyd! And Collins yelled back.
Yes, I'm here.
Estes emerges from the cave.
Okay, we know he's trapped, and we know where he is.
So, a whole troop of locals show up. Out of my way. Say a bunch of men who would confidently charge into the cave.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But once they reach the final squeeze...
Nope.
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 Smart. They have
Nope.
Yeah, they have
would
survival
charge
instinct.
Straight back out again, saying things like,
There's no way any man could fit in there.
out of my way, they would say as they were heading in the reverse direction. So a few more hours passed. Word would spread around Cave City and the neighboring areas. Slowly, a crowd formed outside Sand Cave.
Man, everyone coming here to watch a guy die.
Over in Louisville, Floyd's 22-year-old brother, Homer, he gets a phone call.
Hello? I see. My brother. He's trapped in a cave? I'm on my way.
Timmy's stuck in a well?
Homer jumps on a coach and makes his way to Floyd's cave. Homer
How
struts
is he
up to the
still
scene.
alive?
He walks past the growing crowd of unhelpful onlookers and makes a beeline for the cave to save his brother. In he goes, down the chute, through the narrowing passages, down on his hands and knees towards the turnaround room.
What a good brother.
And when he arrives, he does not hesitate. He squeezes into the hole, scrambles his way through to the ledge on the other side. He sees Floyd below and slides down to meet him.
Floyd!
Sup?
Probably wasn't that casual.
Oh, thank God you're here.
Homer took a moment to shine his light around the area.
Oh yeah, he's been
and
in
assess
darkness
the
this whole
situation.
time. Holy shit.
It was not good. This rock formation is going to prove almost impossible to work around. Alright, so let's have a look. Floyd is here. The rock is here, pinning his ankle. He's surrounded by rubble, and there's a pocket of gravel above him ready to fall.
Oh no.
However, because this opening is so small, there are only two viable ways of reaching Floyd and that gravel. Option 1, the most obvious, feet first. But if you do this, you have to kind of squat, and your own torso obstructs access to the rubble. Otherwise, option 2,
I don't like
come
the
down
head first.
head
I don't like the head
That will
first.
give you better
No,
access, but
no,
you're trying to
no,
move hundreds
no.
of pounds of gravel upside down.
Nope, 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 nope,
Worse
nope, nope.
yet, there's barely an inch around Collins on either side, so good luck getting your arm down near Floyd's ankle to actually free him from the wedged rock. Homer whips around and yells.
Quickly, some food and drink.
They send
True.
it through.
Yeah, he needs food.
But first,
and water.
Homer gives Floyd a liter of coffee to warm him up. Then, as many sausage sandwiches as he can stomach. He manages to down 9 of them. Dietary advice has changed since the 1920s.
Feeling better?
Much better.
Then Homer went to task.
Wait, now he's
He began
fatter. He's gonna be
removing
stuck even
rocks and
more.
gravel, tiny scoop at a time, with the help of an old syrup can.
Ah, the actual can.
For the next 8 hours he toiled, first with hands, then, once enough was cleared, using a crowbar to scoop behind his brother,
Smart.
scraping away sharp protrusions as he went. It was slow progress. Virtually futile. While holding up his body weight with one arm, he would have to use the other to scoop away gravel.
He's like a gymnast.
Then watch as new gravel would suddenly fall from above and undo all the work. Homer
There's not
stayed
going to
for
be
as long as
infinite
he
amounts of
could,
gravel.
But after several hours, he was ragged. His teeth chattered uncontrollably. His lungs choked with dust. And the skin on his fingers shredded from the rubble. However, something new. By the time Homer reached outside, he was surprised to see a mob of approximately 100 men and women standing around, drinking, squabbling, and talking big game about how they too were going to save Floyd.
Yeah.
The press was also present to help people gawk from afar. Homer shunned them all and rested up in a
Yeah,
small
fuck those
tent
guys.
in front
They're
of
not
the
gonna do
cave.
jack shit.
Strangers immediately crowded around him to ask innocent but, frankly, frustrating questions and offer unsolicited, obvious advice as well as wildly impractical solutions. Listen, you just have to untie his shoes. Free the foot, free the man, right, fellas?
No. Let's hire a contortionist. We get a hammer and a chisel. We'll have him back by supper.
What?
We should jerk him off, right, guys? All right, I made that third guy up, but you get the idea. A lot of these guys.
I don't know.
drunk,
Maybe it
by the
happened.
way. So the discussions
There are
very
freaks
quickly
out
went
there.
from 0 to 100. Hey, new idea. How about dynamite?
Right.
Simply blow him out. One
Okay.
group formed, insisting it was a great idea.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
another saying, no, the explosion will kill him, and the weight of the new rocks will surely crush him.
He's not wrong.
They shouted at each other for a while, until someone suggested, hey, how about gas torches? We can use acetylene torches to cut
You wanna
through
kill
the
him
rock
with
and make the
smoke
hole
inhalation?
bigger. No. That'll cook him, or the gas will fill the cave and kill everyone inside. They fought over that too. But by far the most common suggestion was to simply cut off the foot.
How?
Never mind that the foot itself was unreachable.
Yeah, how?
And never mind that he'd lose so much blood he might not make it back to the surface. And never minding even more that Floyd was strongly reluctant to the idea.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't cut my foot off.
Homer could have easily ignored all of this pointless bickering, except that not one of them would just brave the damn cave and continue shoveling away the gravel. The formula was always the
Pussies.
same.
I mean, I wouldn't either.
Bold, fearless men would strut into the cave with sandwiches and blankets, then reach the turnaround room and immediately lose their nerve, then dump it all outside of the hole, and then return back outside and go, oh, absolutely. No, he says, thanks for the food. Thanks so much."
Assholes.
Yum, yum.
Just at
No
least
one
tell them that
would
you
go
didn't
through
do
that
it.
Squeeze. Dozens more men would try. All of them would fail. February 2nd, 9 a.m. So far, Homer has been the only person who has been face to face with Floyd. And that would continue to be true until here we are at the Louisville Courier. There's a spirited young newshawk named William Miller. He's talking to his boss, and he's trying to convince him that it's a great idea for him to cover the story of the man trapped in the cave.
Listen up, boss. I'm hearing talk of a man in a cave. He's stuck down there, and I want to get down there too. Get to the nitty-gritty, you hear?
This is an opportunity for some good PR, Miller. I'm in. But I want us to sponsor that rescue. Picture this.
That's smart.
Man saved from cave by Louisville Courier, the finest newspaper in the state. That'll drum up plenty of interest.
24
wrong.
carat idea, boss. I'll make it happen. I'll get down there toot sweet.
So off Miller goes to Floyd's cave. Back over at the cave, Homer is sitting outside trying to recuperate. As Miller wanders up, Homer is not interested in giving an interview. He wants someone to help. So as Miller asks questions, Homer tries his best to show contempt.
Sure.
Frustrated, Homer bluntly says,
Listen, you want more information? The hole's right behind me. Why don't you go take a look yourself?
Miller
And he did
thinks
just
for a
that.
moment, then says, yeah, all right. He grabs a lantern and crouches down to enter the cave.
I'm guessing
As
this
he
man's
walked,
never caved in
cold
his life.
water filled his shoes. He was stepping in newly formed puddles. That water is coming from the inside of the cave as the temperature slowly increases and the frost inside melts. The stable environment of the cave is starting to change. That is thanks in no small part to the growing crowd of gawkers. To stay
Assholes.
warm, they were building fires and hanging around the entrance of the cave to shelter from the elements. But nonetheless, Miller presses on, and all that's left is that final squeeze, and he's there. He stops. He takes a moment and decides to call out to Floyd.
Floyd!
Hearing there is someone on the other side, he feels ashamed not to try. Into the dark he went,
What a nice man.
through the 9-inch squeeze. The crystal gypsum cuts into his elbows and tugs at his clothes. He gets snagged. He's spluttering through the
Are we gonna
pools
have
of
2
muddy
stuck
water.
people down there?
He stops, collects himself, and pushes on. He can barely inhale. If he gets stuck in here, he can only hope that someone else can come in from behind and pull him out by the legs. But eventually, he makes it through. Fantastic. He is now on his belly, looking down at Floyd.
very committed reporter. I don't think I could do it.
To Floyd, ready to interview him.
I'd make some shit up.
But Floyd didn't really answer any of his questions. At the moment, he is sitting in a pool of water that is 12 degrees, slowly sapping his body temperature. He is dying from exposure.
Yep.
The cold is diminishing Floyd's mental faculties, and he can barely make sentences. There's nothing Miller can do, so he hurriedly turns around. He worked his way back through the squeeze, past the turnaround room, and out into the daylight. Homer turns to Miller. Proof that he had made it all the way to Floyd is soaked onto his mud-stained clothes. No longer frustrated with the young reporter, instead, he excitedly runs over to him.
You and me. Together, we can get Floyd out of there.
Now, there were two people who could help rescue Floyd.
How are you gonna warm him up, though?
Now, helping with the rescue was not the only thing that Miller did for Floyd. Perhaps even more crucially, his reporting was responsible for turning Floyd into a nationwide story. Miller took interviews, relayed first-person accounts, and would spend many hours with Floyd himself in that cave. He gave an insight into the story that only a first-person account could, and in turn, gave the public a figure who they would deeply relate to.
That's how you
Updates
get big.
to the story
You have
would be
something no
printed
one
in
else
over
does.
1,000 local and national newspapers. You couldn't escape it. It was also the era when radio became a regular feature for regular Americans. Radio allowed something new: hourly updates, letting people get engrossed into the story.
Oh, the
So,
24-hour
mostly
news
thanks
cycle
to Miller,
begins.
The story of Floyd over the next week would grow and grow, and everybody wanted to know, will this man make it? Back outside the cave,
It's not
someone
looking
new
good.
entered the story.
This is why I will never go
Robert
spelunking like that.
He
Nope,
would
couldn't
become
do
the
it.
third man to reach
No.
Floyd, a firefighter from
I care too
Louisville.
much about my life.
Thin frame, but muscular. He got scratched up pretty good and soaked by the pooling water. But he made it through with little fuss, and he confidently lowered himself down to Floyd's position. It was not an optimistic sight. Floyd's condition was deteriorating.
Well, we've got a heck of a problem here, but I think I can get you out with a rope.
Floyd nods in approval.
We
What
might
about
just
his
pull your
foot?
bloody leg off.
Just pull my leg off then. Get me out of here.
Burden
Oh,
returned
okay,
to the
well.
surface and faced the crowd. He announced,
We will attempt a rope pull.
I don't know if that's a good idea. You're just gonna tear his foot off.
Yep.
"Yeah, hold on. What about the sharp rocks? Rake him through all that and there'll barely be a body left to bring to the surface." A physician stepped forward.
Valid
with authority.
concerns.
"The ligaments in the foot are strong, but if you pull on the torso without a harness, all you'll likely do is tear his internal organs." But Floyd is dying of exposure down there. The situation is becoming desperate. Burden put caution to the side.
The time for strategy is over. Now we try brute force.
Heck yeah! Bring out the dynamite! Fuck the rope, just brute force it with dynamite. Boom! Maybe he'll live. You know, in cartoons they live. They just come out with like a bunch of soot on them. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, fucking hell. Oh no, it's Cthulhu! It's Rock Cthulhu! All of this happened, by the way.
Floyd! Floyd! We're here! We're gonna get you out of here!
After 79 hours in the cold water, he is delirious, fading in and out of consciousness.
I'm gonna put the special harness around you. Burden and Miller, they're here too. We got 3 more boys right up the cave, and they're all ready to pull as hard as they can to get you out of here.
Oh
Floyd
my
was
god,
frightened.
he's gonna lose his
Not
foot.
gonna lie, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
No one knew quite how this would go. Floyd was given some food, some coffee, a large swig of whiskey.
Oh yeah,
and
fucking
was
get
said,
him drunk.
That sedative would keep him calm if his ankle bone is snapped or the skin on his foot is peeled off. Floyd took the opportunity to appreciate being surrounded by friends and family.
Go on. Do it.
All right, strap him up.
Homer
It's
attached
alright
the
if I can
harness.
pull him.
He ties on the rope. Miller gives the signal.
Ready?
And I reel him
Gives
in like
the
a
final
fish.
all clear.
Ready?
Everybody braced for the tug of war. Cave versus man. The winner gets Floyd.
3, 2,
Do it.
1.
Pull.
The force of 6 men pulled against the clutches of the cave. Floyd began to scream. His
It sounds
body
like the
was being
cave is
pulled up from
screaming.
The rubble. The gravel was beginning to shift. Burden's calls echo through the cave.
Pull harder.
Floyd screamed harder as well. All right, so Floyd is trapped laying down like this. But the pulling of the rope wrenches him
Yeah.
up like this. His torso was
need a
being
pulley.
compressed and bent against the ceiling of the trap. It would kill him. Floyd's screaming intensified, and through gasps was begging them to stop. But it did not stop. The agony continued. On and on, with no progress.
Enough! Enough! You guys are killing him!
Homer quickly spun around and started pulling against the other men. He threw his legs onto the rocks and propelled himself backwards. 1 man versus 5.
I
And the
said
cave.
stop!
Coursing with adrenaline, he pulled the rope free from their clasp.
Damn!
The tug of war was over. The cave had won. Floyd fell back down. Homer, Miller, Burden, and the other 3 men were flat on their backs, panting for breath. The cave would not let this
Nom,
man
nom, nom,
go.
nom, nom. It's a mouth! It's eating
The
him!
futility of the situation sank in, and all they could do was leave for now and rest.
Alright, bring out the dynamite.
Outside, the number of spectators had increased to 200. They buzzed and asked useless questions, and Homer walked dejectedly past them.
Fuck those
He
guys.
sat by thinking what he could do. The cause seemed hopeless.
Aww.
Homer?
Then, someone showed up who could turn things around. He looked up to see a childhood friend of both his and Floyd's, Johnny Gerald.
Ah, good
He
old
was
Johnny
just
Gerald.
the man for the job. He was an experienced caver, and he was an experienced cave-trapped person rescuer.
Ah.
All right, let me go see him. Well, look who it is.
Floyd perked up immediately, thrilled to see Gerald. The sparkle from Floyd's gold tooth could be seen in his smile.
All right, let's see what we can do.
Gerald jumped down. And then, for the next 3 hours, Gerald went back to the
don't know why
original
that
plan
got me.
of digging away the rocks. His stamina was good, and progress was surprisingly good as well. For several more hours, he continued, just moving stone after stone. New one would fall in its place, and he'd move.
Wait, they
that
just
one
went back
too.
to the old
By midnight,
routine?
He had enough room to shift position and clear some of the gravel that was at each side of Floyd's body. Gerald would spend several more hours scooping. And it worked. Slowly.
They should've just
more
kept
and
doing the
more
old
of
method.
Floyd's body was coming free from the rubble. The lower shoulders, his chest, even his hips and thighs. It was incredible progress. But Gerald wasn't done yet. He kept
What about the
going
big-
until
what about the big
practically
rock?
all of the rubble, except a few harder to reach piles down by his legs, remained. The relief from the weight made it significantly easier for Floyd to breathe and flex his limbs. Over the course of those few hours, Gerald managed to scoop away more than 1,000 pounds.
What the fuck?
But there was still a lot more
How
to
ripped
go.
is that man?
And that rock by Floyd's foot was still holding him in place.
Yeah, what about that?
By 2 a.m., Gerald was spent. He needed rest, and he was ready to head back outside.
Floyd, tomorrow, you're gonna be a free man.
Now, here you
wait,
might
what's the
think
plan,
that
though,
things
for
will
the big
become
rock?
Straightforward. They did not. Now that space had been cleared, Burden became convinced that if he could get down that passage again, he could free Floyd with another rope pull.
Man, that
Fate
guy loves
deciding
the fucking
with both
rope.
feet or just one. So Burden marches up to the cave once again, but when he tried to enter, they shoved him in the other direction. The crowd was acting as a sort of phalanx, and anyone who tried to get in was told to get lost.
Why?
They had been specifically instructed to not let anyone in, and they were especially opposed to Burden making another rope pull after word spread about the disaster of the first attempt. He tried to reason with them.
Let me try the rope pull again. It'll
Come
work
on.
this time.
But they would not hear
Just
it.
one rope pull. Just one little rope pull. Come on.
Of the 3 other people who could reach him, Gerald and Homer are out exhausted and sick, which leaves only Miller, who is tied up with work. With Burden barred from entering, Floyd was left on his own.
Oh no!
Wondering why it was that no one would visit him.
Hello? Is anyone there?
Just let him in without a rope.
Help? Hey,
You can take the rope away.
out there?
Now, the work Miller was doing was handing over reports to his boss about Sand Cave. Those reports would be fed through the news grapevine to the Associated Press, and the Associated Press would send that out to its very large affiliate network. The word was spreading about Floyd. By afternoon, Miller was done with his work and he hurried back to the cave. So he gets inside and, his eyes didn't have to work half as hard to adjust to the dark. Someone had installed electric lights from the entrance
That's smart.
right all the way down to Floyd. Miller popped down to the lower level.
Ah, Floyd, fancy
Wait,
seeing
isn't
you
that gonna
here,
heat
buddy.
things up again?
When Miller reached Floyd, he took the final bulb and attached it to his collar to keep him warm. Then, reusing
Wait,
that syrup tin,
again,
he
won't that
started
melt
offloading
stuff?
gravel into buckets.
Isn't that
Those
bad?
buckets were then passed up and down the cabin, like an assembly line.
Yeah, wait, why didn't they
And
do
so
that
went
sooner?
on for the next few hours, until he was too tired and needed to rest. Miller then took some time to have a bit of a one-on-one with Floyd. He said, "You know, there are a lot of people in the news that are reading about you and have you in their prayers. Is there anything you want me to relay to them?" Floyd had been in that cave for over 100 hours now, and seeing everyone working together, Floyd was overcome with a sense of hope and relief. Floyd wanted to pass on a message. Here is what he is quoted in the newspaper.
I believed I would go to heaven. I can feel that I'm to be taken out alive and with both my feet. I kept thinking, what would happen if the rock above me would fall? It caused me to shudder. I kept thinking to drive my mind to something else, but it wasn't much use. I couldn't do much to help those who came to help me, but I knew that a lot of people were willing to do all in their power. It gave me courage. Tuesday morning, I thought to myself, 4 days down here, and no nearer freedom than I was on the first day. How will it end? Will I get out? I couldn't think of it. I have faced death before. It doesn't frighten me, but it is so long. Tell them I am not going to give up. Tell them I'm going to fight and be patient and never forget them.
Damn. Why are people so good at giving ad hoc speeches like that? Or testimonials? That's not the right word. Man. He could think of that and say that and reflect on his situation that well after being stuck in a cave for 100 hours. That's an experienced caver, I guess.
Meanwhile, news of the incident kept growing. The entire country was captivated by Floyd's story. Crowds huddled around newspaper stands each morning and afternoon, waiting to get any new drips of information. It became a water cooler topic. Did you catch the latest episode of Game of Caves? He had the prayer power of practically every church in the county. Even the upper echelons of government
Are those
were keeping
sheep?
tabs on Floyd.
In front of the White
Congress
House?
halted session to get their little updates, and even the president, Calvin Coolidge, took a glance.
I forgot he was a
By
president.
The end, the Floyd Collins incident would explode into the third largest non-political story between World War I and World War II.
I
All of
guess
this
after
excitement
World
brought
War I
an
and World War
inundation
II
of
then.
people to Cave City. Old population, 690. Yawn. New population, 10,000. The bank vaults ran empty as people withdrew cash to spend around town. But they wouldn't have much to spend it on because restaurants didn't even have enough stock to feed all the new customers. Practically every hotel room in the county was taken, so residents capitalized with a 1920s version of Airbnb and charged outrageous fees to offer places to sleep on their bedroom floor or in mattress-lined bathtubs.
I'll take the bathroom.
4,500
the bathtub seems better.
Impatiently sat, backed up for 2 miles from 20 different states to drive onto the Collins farm, churning up all the pristine green fields.
It kind of says a lot that some man is stuck in a cave and potentially facing death, and everyone's like, "Oh, I gotta go check it out. Gotta go. This is just my new fix, my new topic of the week. I'm just gonna go watch. Gonna go do all this. Not gonna help. Not gonna do anything. Like what do you accomplish by being in the same town as a guy who is facing the potential gruesome death of being in a cave? Why? Why do people do this? I can't fathom why people want to be around these types of events and not do anything. Like, if you're not going to do anything, that's fine. Most people won't. I probably wouldn't be able to do anything, wouldn't do anything. Me being there would just cause problems. But why? I don't understand.
With their tires and turning them into brown muck paddocks.
They're actively doing things worse. They're actually causing harm.
Trying to free Floyd. Alright, a little bit of setup. Floyd, Miller, some remaining rubble, rock. For anyone to lift the rock by hand would be impossible because Floyd's body obstructs the hole. Miller grabs a crowbar and shoves it through the gap. Now he's going to lever it off Floyd's foot. Cool. The crowbar is now primed in place. Next, he takes a jack. He positions it on top of the crowbar so that it will be forced against the ceiling. However, problem. That jack is too big. It doesn't fit. Miller yells up the tunnel for a smaller one, but this took some time. And when it arrived, too small. Won't reach the ceiling.
Dang it.
But instead of sending for another one, Miller takes 2 blocks of wood and bolsters them underneath the crowbar. Right, so the crowbar now sits higher, it fulcrums against the blocks, and the jack is sitting on top. All Miller has to do is expand the jack, which he will do using this spanner, holding it at the very tips of his fingers. Sounds easy. It's not, but that's the plan. Let's get him out of it.
It does not sound easy at all.
The wrench. The jack expanded.
And then it fucking flips out, right?
Strain. The whole thing slid apart with a bang. Floyd wasn't hurt, but Miller was contorting and exerting his whole body from back to fingertip.
Man, couldn't the things just go flying off in the wrong direction and you just can't even recover it?
Miller caught his breath and gave it another shot. He slowly turned the jack. Pressure building. And this time, Miller could feel the rock move. It bloody moved. He kept turning the wrench and the rock moved a little more. His hands were shaking, knees weak, his arms are heavy. Pang.
Where's the spaghetti?
One of the wood blocks flew out. It all scattered apart.
Damn it.
The rock painfully slammed back down on Colin's
foot.
You'll get it next time, Miller. Try again.
Miller kept on trying. Countless attempts. He kept pushing himself deeper into the trap, finding new approaches. Damn the blocks. No, try the blocks again. Clear some more rubble. Floyd, unable to help physically, is supporting him in spirit at least, cheering him on. And Miller kept going and going and going until he had nothing left. For the next 4 hours, he tried. No progress. Miller was exhausted. He couldn't do this on his own. But he was the only one slim enough to get in through the gap. The group decided to concede for now and return to the surface. They would take just a small break, but it looked to everyone like there was a clear way to get this man out.
Really?
So Miller and Burden crawled back through the mud and the wines
Wait. Could they not get like a...
As they made their way through...
They don't have motorized hammers. Wait, they do, right?
The ceiling seemed lower.
What about breaking up the rock apart?
Navigate them before. Doubly so with their bruised and rock-shredded hands. They stepped outside and took in the fresh country air. But as their eyes adjusted to the light, they saw something new. A man named Henry Carmichael was standing in front of a sizable crowd of engineers in hard hats and soldiers in military uniform. Now, Henry is the superintendent of the Kentucky Rock Asphalt Company. The engineers are his employees, and the men in military garb are the National Guard. Now, Carmichael has been quietly looking at the situation from afar, and he is thoroughly unimpressed. This is no rescue operation. Once Miller
But
and
what'd you
co call it
expect?
quits, Carmichael had 2 of his employees do a proper survey of the cave and see if it was suitable to bring in his whole team of men. The 2 surveyors go in. As the passage led down to Floyd, it was showing alarming signs of deterioration. You could see the splitting of the rock above. Boards were slipping out of place or splintering. Small rocks tumbled down the walls. They soon came back with a report. It was not good.
Again, how
All right,
you
so
expect
the following is a
tourists to go down
recounting
there?
of events from one of Carmichael's men, Casey Jones. Casey and another worker spent about an hour in the cave, surveying its condition, looking at the boards, the ceiling, the stability of the walls. Casey continued deeper towards Floyd. He was fighting against his nerves. The shifting of the rock pinged his every instinct to flee. But he could hear Floyd calling out for help in the distance. Summoning all of his courage, he pushed himself on, through the final squeeze and over the ledge that looked down on Floyd. Rubble continued to drop from the ceiling, bouncing all around him. The ceiling felt closer to him than it was before.
I legitimately
Maybe
looked
that
up.
was
I
just
was
the
like, oh
dark
shit, what's
playing
that?
tricks.
Please, come down. I can't right now, Floyd, but I will when I get back.
Now, Casey is being pulled in 2 directions.
No, come back. Come on. Let's get out of here already.
Please, I'm so thirsty.
Okay.
Casey climbed down next to Floyd.
Quick, drink.
Said Casey as
He's
tried
about to be
pour some
stuck down
coffee
there, isn't he?
into Floyd's mouth. But Floyd turned his head and kept his lips pursed.
Why?
The rocks were falling at a faster rate now. The loud cracking out
It's like a
above
drowning man
sounded like thunder.
that's gonna pull you down with
In
him.
that
Get the fuck
moment,
out of there!
Casey realized what was happening. Floyd was not really asking for a drink. Floyd knew that a cave-in was inevitable. Scared and approaching his 5th day trapped, he was completely at his wit's end.
Yep.
He knew he was about to be trapped in that cave, and he didn't want to be trapped.
Yep, it's literally that thing.
For God's sake, Casey, come on. You're gonna get us killed.
Stay with me, please. Don't leave.
Casey quickly turned
Nope.
away and
Getting outta
scrambled
here.
back up the ledge. He made his way back through the final squeeze, his limbs scrambling against the cave walls. It seemed
Jesus
as if
Christ,
everything
oh my
around
god, he's
him
literally
was
gonna drag him down with him.
He made it out, and he joined his co-worker. They both turned around and watched on in horror as the yellow of the bulb was being swallowed by the dark. Rubble fell fast.
The cave's alive!
Until no light could be seen.
It's a
at
mouth!
all. Rocks blocked out Floyd's panicked cries. The one route to Floyd was now sealed shut, a tomb of rock and dust.
It's really well done that he used this story to make the cave the villain. Like it feels like a living entity.
It's morning. Burden and Miller jump out of their tents, ready for the day. They're feeling optimistic. Today will be the day that they get Floyd out of there. And they're packing some new tools to help them with the job. Wire to wrap around the wooden blocks, that'll stop them from slipping. And a blowtorch to carve away some of the rock, make the hole a bit bigger. But when Miller got to the turnaround room, all of that optimism left him. The entrance to the squeeze was now just a pile of debris. Miller froze, staring at it for a long while. Then he sighed and did the only thing he could think. Make an opening through that rubble.
How?
But the more he raked away, the more fell in its place. It was never ending. He persisted, ignoring the danger around him. Thud. A large piece of debris.
Now he's
landed.
stuck.
Luckily, it was only dried clay. He is uninjured. But recognizing the danger, Miller returned to the surface. 15 minutes later, he emerged from the cave with a bloodied up nose and bruises down his back and shoulders. Burden caught sight and races over to him. Miller just says, "For God's sake, don't let anyone go back in there." Miller leaves the site. Burden doesn't know what to do. Over at
Again,
the house, Homer is
you think
terribly
that
ill
tourists
and out of
were gonna go
action,
down there?
And that just leaves Gerald. Now he comes marching up when he hears the news, and he is livid. He told the crowds to keep away or the whole thing would cave in, and they didn't listen. Then exactly that thing happened. And what were they supposed to do now? The rest of the day was spent squabbling and bickering over who was to blame. You caused the cave-in. No, you caused the cave-in.
Everyone did.
Cave your bloody head in, mate.
And Floyd spent the rest of that day alone. The surveyors continued checking the cave throughout the day. At 6 p.m., Carmichael had ordered everyone to an assembly. Gerald took the floor. He was going to give this one last shot. Gerald addressed the crowd.
Listen up. There's death down there. The walls and ceilings are crumbling. Unless you're determined to take the biggest chance you ever took in your life, tell me now and stay outside.
Next, they told all the Gawkers to get the hell out of the cave. Clear off. And so, Gerald went in and out of that cave half a dozen times, working away at the rubble, blocking access to Floyd, leaving only when he suspected another cave-in or to get food and water. Men on the sidelines were supplying new timber. A group of men helped Gerald to prop up the ceiling and guard against further collapse.
Smart.
Gerald toiled away at the pile, eager to reach his friend. He worked steadily, mindful of the danger poised right above him. Bit by bit,
just wear a hard
he
hat.
reduced that pile until a light. He called out, yelling updates through the hole.
Bad news. We can't reach you. But hold on. We're coming.
Gerald continued. The pile got smaller still. The gap was large enough now that Gerald thought he might be able to fit.
Okay, that's enough. Floyd, I'm going for now. But when I get back, I'm gonna get you out of there.
Gerald scrambled back out.
Last time you said that you didn't.
To the men, and through panted breaths he said,
Gather the equipment, and in an hour's time, it's gonna be me and Floyd coming out of that cave.
Sure.
Gerald entered Sand Cave for his final time. The walls had been reinforced, but mud and water was accumulating everywhere. He waded through it and pressed on past the danger of the sagging ceiling. With determination on his face and a grease gun clutched in his right hand, he scrambled towards Floyd. But before the final squeeze, he stopped. It was all gone. Another cave-in, even worse than the first. He thought about how he could have been on the other side of that rubble. His mind raced, weighing out what to do. He shouted,
Floyd!
As a not-so-subtle reminder of the danger he was in, a rock fell from the ceiling and cracked Gerald across the head. Luckily, just a small one. He felt around for blood and kept shouting.
Floyd!
He could definitely hear
Did they
a
not have
voice,
hard hats back then?
but it was faint. Gerald was scared that this was Floyd's last shot at rescue, and he threw himself against the pile and pulled it away with finger and nail, launching the debris behind him with force, tearing at the pile like a man on fire. Dust bellowed, rocks flew, and he kept shouting out for Floyd as he went.
Floyd!
Until finally, the cave had had enough. It let loose a large, jagged rock, aimed straight at Gerald, striking him on his back. Gerald stumbled out of that cave, injured and defeated.
The cave wants him.
Only after the cave-ins did they start to think about all of the things that they could have done.
Wait, why didn't we rig a portable telephone line? That would have been incredibly simple here in 1925.
Oh, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? It's a fucking waste of time.
To deliver updates.
Doing all this right now is a waste of time.
He could have had something to listen to and receive messages of support from the public.
Wait, why don't we rig up a tarpaulin so we could lift his torso up so he wouldn't be slowly dying of exposure?
Oh god, why didn't we run a feeding tube? That's also a technology we have in 1925.
All too late.
Yeah,
Now,
excellent ideas.
the
Too
one
bad
route
it's too
to
late.
get to Floyd is closed forever. That meant two options.
Why didn't they do that, though?
Number one, capitulation. Surrender him to the cave. Or number two, dig down from directly above Floyd.
That's an option?
Now, the prospect of digging from above seemed almost fanciful.
Yeah.
At least, it did in the beginning. But luckily, they had some help. Owing to Miller's reporting, Floyd had become practically the most famous person in the country. The rescue had become a high priority for the governor of Kentucky. Lieutenant General Denhart enters the scene. He's been updated on the situation, and following shortly behind him is a small army of miners and engineers. He declared to the despondent crowd, "Gentlemen, I am here on behalf of the governor. The purse strings of Kentucky are open. Take this blank check and bring that man out alive." Floyd, in that cold, wet confine, could not have imagined the scale of the operation that was going on 55 feet above him. Authorities assumed control of Colin's rescue. Denhart gave Carmichael control over the site, and Carmichael raced to get to work. Carmichael rallied up his men, his fleet of expensive high-tech machinery. Professional groups were brought in from all across the state. No longer was this the ad hoc effort of a few individuals. It was a professional and organized rescue. No more squabbling and standing around. Everyone knew what they had to do, and they were working as fast as they could. But just as hopes were rising, they were once again dashed against the rocks.
Oh no.
They had all of this state-of-the-art machinery shipped in and assembled by the engineers and rearing to go. And it was all worthless. See, the problem is, the cave drew air into it. These diesel-powered engines pumped out enormous volumes of choking exhaust. Within a day's operation, the cave would be filled with carbon monoxide, and Floyd would be dead from asphyxiation. Just as quickly as solutions would arise, the cave would parry them away.
This cave is smart.
It refused to let this man go.
Smart cave.
This useless machinery was now blocking the path to Floyd, which means they would have to spend the next couple of hours disassembling all of it and moving it away.
Oh, what a waste of time.
They're about to dig a 55-foot pit the old-fashioned way, by hand. Carmichael's expertise was in quarries, but the principles transferred over to caving and digging holes. He did some quick back-of-the-envelope math. I've got 75 men, they can dig at 2 feet per hour, and we have to go 55 feet deep. That means we can get to those men in roughly 30 hours, give or take. Now, is it possible that Floyd could survive for another 30 hours? Absolutely. Let's go. 4 men started at great pace. The soil was soft.
Yeah, but that's also at like peak optimal
as they
work.
got deeper,
they're not going to be working for 30 hours.
The deeper the shaft, the narrower it became. Soon, instead of 4 men, they could only fit 2.
Yeah.
Carmichael understood well that this was a race against time. So it was important that these 2 men were working at full capacity. Carmichael had a queue of men on the sidelines, poised to dig. And the moment that either of the 2 men in the hole slowed down, they pulled them out and threw in a new one. Nonetheless, progress slowed the deeper they went. About a quarter of the way down, they reached rock, and one of the men would have to work a pickaxe, leaving only one to shovel. At this depth, rubble couldn't just be flung into a pile. They had to start loading it into buckets, which would have to be pulled to the surface on ropes. Then men outside were ready with wheelbarrows to cart that downfield. Time passed. Hours passed. Night went to day. The day was hot. This was yet another problem, because it's early February, there's tons of ice still in the ground, and its exposure to the midday sun was causing it to become unstable, and the ground was becoming sodden as a result. Progress slowed once again, just half a foot per hour. There was little for Colin's friends and family to do, but watch the clock and pray. Interestingly, though, there were a lot of people on the sidelines.
Why?
Floyd wouldn't have believed the scene above him. Practically everything but a
You're turning in a man's death into a carnival
to cash in on the crowds. Families and church groups picnicked in the fields. Despite prohibition, moonshiners showed up to sell jugs with all of those X's written on it. There was even a bloody juggler.
Why?
I won't stop juggling till he's free.
Oh, yeah, that's
and old
helpful.
man Lee was there, walking around, shaking his jar, and soliciting donations.
Wow, what a
But where were
fucking
Homer
asshole.
and Burden and Miller during all of this? Okay, let's back up a bit. People did not properly understand exactly how Floyd was trapped, and the news didn't help much either. So the obvious question started to arise. Why hasn't he been rescued yet? Just clear some gravel or pull a rope. How is this so hard?
Yeah, come on.
Motive was attributed.
I heard they didn't even want to have him rescued at all.
I heard that they're doing all of this for publicity.
And Lee's activity of soliciting
Oh,
donations,
God.
remember from before, further inflamed rumors.
Yeah.
I bet Floyd isn't even trapped in there.
These were all real rumors, and they got worse.
You know what? I've heard he comes out at night, and then he just goes back in the morning.
Other rumors included,
Why would you
I
even do
heard
that?
After Floyd went into the cave, someone murdered him.
others said,
I think they're withholding food and water from him so he dies.
Just
This
kill
whole
him.
thing is a fraud.
As time went on, it was harder and harder to ignore the hoax claims. Then, people started to form righteous mobs, claiming the whole thing was a fraud, and they started to get nasty. In fact, 2 people even went to the telegraph office and pretended to be Floyd sending telegrams to his mother, who,
What?
by the way,
Assholes!
died several years ago. Here's what it said. Quote, "Please contradict statements that I am buried alive in Sand Cave. Stop. Tell mother I am all right. Stop. Am coming home. Stop." Floyd
Assholes.
Collins. Naturally, the AP published these telegrams unquestioningly, and now word is out to the press that he isn't actually in the cave after all. That made the authorities look foolish, and it could not go on. So, a hasty court-martial was arranged, and Homer, Miller, and Gerald were summoned.
Oh,
They
come
hold one session on
on.
Monday and another on Tuesday. Lee and everyone else is cleared of charges, a retraction is written, and things carry on.
Well, Collins wasn't faking it. Limo.
The men at the dig were busy as ever. They set up pumps to mitigate the water in the shaft. Men continued working in shifts and carrying away the earth. Here they are with strips of lumber to shore up the walls. They were just short of halfway, and their rate of clearing material had slowed to a mere 4 inches per hour.
Ooh.
It was at that point Carmichael went, "Yeah, okay, sod the cavers. Try the dynamite."
Yeah.
Hardly
Boom.
did, and it risked causing the shaft to collapse.
Nah, fuck it.
But despite all of these challenges, there was an optimism in the air. Because
Really?
everyone was keen for their turn to dig. And because they had one more thing to latch onto. He is probably still alive. Now, how do they know
Yeah,
that?
how do you know that?
Okay, so remember that light bulb around Floyd's neck? Well, it's powered by a simple copper wire. Their copper wire
so
is
they
subject
can...
to very minute
Yeah, little movements.
fluctuations in resistance. So, an engineer rigs up a radio amplifier to this wire to read the current and see those small fluctuations. There they were. About 20 per minute. The
Heartbeat.
rate of steady breathing.
Or breathing, I mean.
As his chest expands and contracts, they can read it from this device. And so, they kept going. And going.
I thought he'd be dead by
and
now.
going. 30 hours was the original estimate. Now 144 hours had come and gone, and they were only at 44 feet.
Doesn't he
Then
need water?
Rain fell. Rain that mixed with dirt to make mud.
That's not good.
Much of which then froze to make ice. Ice which expanded and damaged the integrity of the shaft walls. Slowing down with every hour, they continued. Many more hours passed, and they were getting close. But it was now 15 days since Floyd was first stuck in that cave, and people
He's dead!
had mostly lost hope. That excitement in the newspapers was tempering down. Visitors began clearing out from Cave
who
City.
cares?
Many still held
God.
on to hope, but their final lifeline, that light bulb, had burnt out, and it wasn't possible to do any more readings on the radio amplifier without it. No one knew if Floyd was still alive.
Nah, he's dead. Needs food and water.
Another 51 hours would pass before, finally, they reached the 60-foot depth.
I'm in. Chisel.
A chisel is handed down.
They better have food and water at the ready if he is alive.
On Monday, February 16th, Sand Cave would open once again. Floyd had been pinned in that cave for 17 days. 12 spent without food, survivable. 12 without water, likely not survivable. The light bulb, a vital source of warmth, burnt out 4 days ago. But maybe the moisture from the dripping of the cave walls provided him with some sustenance? There are stories of people surviving harsher extremes. A few final rocks were moved to allow Ed Brenner to squeeze in. Everybody stood by, absolutely silent, peering into that hole. Ed scanned the opening with his flashlight, listening carefully for movement. Then, head first, he worked his way in. The flashlight reflected dimly off the rock walls, but then caught the reflection of something gold. That golden flicker was not the light bulb. It was the glistening of light reflecting off a gold tooth. His mouth hung open. Floyd was dead.
Damn.
Brenner was helped out of the cave and he delivered the news.
Dead.
A coroner would later state that Floyd succumbed to exposure, and that they had missed him by just 3 days, about the same time that the light bulb had gone out. When the light bulb went out,
he probably lost a lot of hope as well. Once that light bulb went out, he was like, oh, it's over. I can't imagine how he felt in those last moments. That's gotta be excruciating. And again, why I will never go spelunking.
So too did his one source of warmth. If it had held out, Collins might have as well.
Maybe.
But what would they do now with the body? The shaft walls were ready to fall inwards, and risking lives to remove a corpse was seen as just irresponsible. So it was decided by the authorities. Floyd will stay in that
The cave wins.
Now, this did not sit well with the family, but what could they do? The next day, they planned the funeral. The town emptied of people, and the shaft
Don't even stay for the
at
funeral.
the bottom was filled back in. But that's not quite the end of the story. But if you hung on for this long, keep holding on, because things are going to continue to get interesting.
Ooh.
But first, let me do a wrap-up of where everyone is and all that stuff. Context. The Collins family already had financial hardship. Lee Collins wasn't able to raise much money from the donations. After the crowds cleared, he was seen searching the site, scanning for empty bottles that he could resell. But the owner of the land, B. Doyle, and supposed friend of Floyd, was wholly unsympathetic. He put up a sign that said, "Floyd's dead body, right this way. Come on now, take a look, only 50 cents a gander."
Oh, yay.
It's 100 years later, B's dead. Let's call it even. Also, remember those claims of Kentucky being an open purse? Well, the state reneged on the deal. They refused to pay many of the rescuers, and most of them went home without the promised
What the fuck?
pay, many having sacrificed a week's worth of wages from missing their regular work. Some of them did make some money out of the situation, though. They signed on to a type of touring theatre called vaudeville. They roamed the country, telling their personal stories of their attempted rescue. Miller received the best offer out of anyone, however. How about 50 grand to do the Chautauqua lecture circuit? It'll be worth nearly $1 million in 2023.
Holy shit!
He declined. He stayed loyal to the Louisville Courier, continuing his work there for several more years. Although, a bit of a perk, he won the 1926 Pulitzer Prize for his reporting on Floyd Collins.
Yay!
Okay, so back to the brother, Homer. He needed money and he agreed to do that vaudeville circuit. He stood on stage and shared with the crowd stories about growing up with his brother, Floyd, and detailing out the tragedy. But Homer made it known why he was up here on stage trying to get money. he had a mission.
I kept thinking of Floyd lying in the muck, where he had suffered beyond our power to imagine. I would never have peace of mind if he remained there.
He wanted the money to dig Floyd up and get him out of that cave. A couple of months later, he had it. Alright, so back to Floyd. April 17th, 1925.
Well, now they don't have to worry about, like,
Homer and a
cave-ins
team
killing
of
him or anything,
excavators.
because he's already dead.
They began to dig. Within a week, they had arrived at Floyd. But instead of coming down the same passage near Floyd's head, they approached from the other side where his foot was. It
Makes
allowed
sense.
them to remove the rock that trapped him in place. They lifted him up from his tomb and laid him down on the fresh air above. A couple of days later, Floyd was given an honored place at the family cemetery, next to his mother. A stalagmite was taken from Sand Cave, carved with his name, and used as a headstone. And there he lay. No, that's not actually where it ends.
What?
Okay, this is where it gets weird. 2 years later, 1927, the Collins family's finances hadn't much improved. A dentist, Harry B. Thomas,
Hey, wait a minute, I remember
walked
that
up to
guy.
the property and made Lee an offer. Sell this property to me, and I will give you $10,000.
What's that?
Now, Homer begged
What's
him
that
not
today?
to, because at the time, the government was starting to buy up tons of land in the area and turn it into national parks. They had to pay at a very competitive rate. But Lee was becoming a bit old and senile by this point, and frankly, it's doubtful that he cared about Homer or Floyd or anyone else for that matter. It's 100 years later, he's dead now. Let's call it.
Wait.
So, the point is, in this land, it's 100 years later, cared about Homer or Floyd.
Oh,
or
okay, he
anyone
mixed
else
up the
for that
names
matter.
there. That's
100 years
Floyd, and then
later,
the Homer's the
he's
other
dead
guy.
now.
Whoops.
Let's call it even. So, the point is, in this land sale with Thomas, Lee
Nah,
agreed
fucking
to a
cancel him on
very
Twitter.
odd clause. And that clause said, everything on that property belongs to Thomas. And should he wish, for example, to exhume a dead body and re-embalm it and put it on display in something really tacky like a glass coffin inside a cave, maybe, then that would be his prerogative. Lee signed yes.
Very weird clause.
And Thomas did exactly that. Doyle made Floyd's corpse a tourist attraction.
Oh my
That's
god.
right. 2 bits of gander, come and wonder at the incredible dead man who died in a cave.
Jesus.
But to add insult to injury, it worked.
Oh.
Visitors returned to Sand Cave to gawk
Why?
morbidly at Floyd.
This is so
Within a
tasteless.
few months, Thomas had turned Lee's failing farm into a successful business.
Oh, I hate that it works.
The Collins family, naturally, is appalled by the situation, and they immediately object. They try a number of times to get Floyd returned to them, including through the legal system. But somehow, incredibly, the judge ruled in Thomas's favor. And so...
He paid
there
off
he
that
lay
judge.
for the next 2 years.
That's a big ass cave. I hate caves. They're
The
so.
cave was not done with Floyd. Until someone hatched a plan. 2 years later, it's midnight, outside Sand Cave. Footsteps can be heard rustling through the brush. Now, we don't know who these 2 men are, but we know why they are here. To rob a grave. They sneak inside and clamber over the rocks in the darkness. Reaching Floyd's casket, they undo the latch and throw open the lid. There is his shriveled body. They throw him in a gunny sack, and they race off.
Can you
into the
imagine
night.
what he looked like at
For
that point?
800
That
yards,
dead body,
they
even
carry
though they
dear
embalmed him,
Floyd
but it was so
like
much
a
later.
couple of sweaty Santas about to deliver a really terrible Christmas present. Panting, out of breath, knowing that they're going to get caught any minute, they reach the Kentucky Green River hillside. There's no time. With a 1, 2, 3, they launch his body towards the river, and Floyd goes sailing into the air, up, into the starlit beyond, and landing in a bush. Oh, God.
Why?
The 2 men flee from the scene. Now, the
Floyd.
next morning, Thomas notices that the body of Floyd is somewhat missing, and he contacts the authorities. The police come, they dust the casket for fingerprints, and bloodhounds are given Floyd's scent and let loose into the hillside. A few hours later, they managed to find him, splayed out in a big shrub down by the river. But this time, with a leg missing, that same one that was trapped under the rock. So, despite his protests, it had been amputated.
He still lost the
Neither
leg.
the leg, nor the culprits were ever found. And while it would be nice to think that this was some well-intentioned duo that did this out of the kindness of their hearts to free Floyd, it's much more likely that it was an act of vandalism because Floyd was simply too much of a hot tourist attraction. The following day, Floyd was cast back into the cave, back into his box, and it was covered by a metal lid, surrounded by a metal chain, and locked with a padlock. He was now more trapped than he had ever been.
Wait, then what's the point of the body? You can't even see it.
Spun fate once again to make sure that its victim would never leave. And so, time passed. Floyd's body would continue to decay. The rot from his body would eventually rot the casket too, and every decade or so, it would need to be replaced. A few years later, he was no longer on display, but even then, he remained in that box for many more years. By 1989, Floyd's Cave was purchased by Mammoth Cave National Park, and it was closed to the public. There would be no more visitors.
Yay!
The entrance itself to Floyd's Cave was closed with a steel gate and bolted, then welded shut. But the Collins family never gave up objecting to Collins' body being left in the cave.
She's got little babies.
Is where the story ends. In 1989, at the Collins' request, the National Park Service ventured into Floyd's Cave. Continuing on a more than 60-year tradition, a team of people worked over the course of several days to remove him from the cave. They took him out, left the cave, locked it behind them, and laid Floyd to rest at the Mammoth Cave Baptist Church Cemetery. After 64 years in Sand Cave, he is now finally at peace. The end. Thank you
Until
to Wintergoon
and the cave does it again.
If you don't let me out, I'm going to hire a gang of hitmen to come to your house and kill your family.
Samito as Homer.
The BTS meal McDonald's bag that has
I'm
McDonald's
hungry.
and BTS. Shut the fuck up and eat some BTS, bro.
Ordinary Things as Miller.
I'm enthusiastic, but would ultimately duck out the back exit.
Rusty Cage as Gerald.
Oh, well, hello there. Haven't seen y'all in a while. Welcome to my new home.
And many kudos as Burden.
Hey, buddy. You right down there?
I can.
You little sleepy?
I can. Yeah.
We get your coffee?
Cold and
Little cup of Joe? Little cup of Joseph?
I'm stuck.
A cup of Joseph from a little sleepy guy?
And do not forget, World of Tanks, World of Tanks. None of this would have happened if Floyd had got World of Tanks.
Exactly. He would have been playing that and not in and he would have not he would not have been in the cave because he would have been playing World of Tanks. Well, thank y'all for watching. If you stuck around, consider liking and subscribing. Also, I stream on Twitch. Bye!